The pen hovered just a breath above the paper. Across the polished table, the billionaire's hand shook so badly the ink trembled on the signature line. It was as if his body already knew this was the moment his life would collapse. His suit was perfect, but his face was not. Sweat gathered at his temple. His throat moved like he was swallowing a stone. Around him, lawyers sat stiff and silent. Their eyes were fixed on the bankruptcy document as if it were a coffin lid, waiting to be closed. Then, a voice spoke. It was barely audible. "Sir, please don't sign that." The waitress stood at the edge of the room, still holding an empty tray. Her uniform was worn. Her fingers were damp from washing dishes, but her eyes were locked on the papers. She looked like she had just seen something no one else noticed. The head lawyer snapped, "This is a private meeting. Get out." But the billionaire did not move. He stared at her. He was half angry, half desperate. The waitress stepped closer. Her voice trembled, but it was firm. "There is a mistake," she said, pointing to one line on the document. A big one. The billionaire's hand froze over the signature line. In that new silence, everyone felt it. One tiny error might decide whether he lost everything, or whether the whole truth was about to explode. Before we jump into the full story, tell me where you're watching from and what time it is there right now. I love seeing how far this channel reaches. And if you enjoy powerful emotional stories with real-life lessons, go ahead and hit subscribe so you don't miss the next one. The meeting room sat high above the city. Glass walls stretched from the floor to the ceiling. Outside, the skyline of Lagos shimmered under the afternoon sun. There were busy roads, honking cars, and people moving with purpose. Life was going on, but inside that room, time had slowed to a painful crawl. For 25 years, his name had meant strength, power, and control. Lawrence was the founder of Lawrence Global Goods, a company that once moved food and products across Nigeria like blood through veins. Markets, warehouses, fleets of trucksy had built it all from nothing. Not from family wealth, not from connections, just from greed, sleepless nights, and a stubborn refusal to fail. But now, the same company that made him a symbol of success was bleeding him dry. Lawrence leaned back in his chair and closed his eyes for a moment. "Your credit line is frozen. We are pulling out of the deal. The interest rates have changed." Across the table sat 3 lawyers in dark suits. Their faces were professional and controlled, but even they could not fully hide the tension. The head lawyer was Clement. Bankruptcy was never a victory, even when it was the only way out. "This protects you from further claims." "Protects me," Lawrence almost laughed. What protection was there in admitting defeat? He glanced at the documents again. Page after page of legal language had reduced his life's work to numbers, clauses, and consequences. Assets to be seized, shares to be sold, properties to be restricted or polite word for taken. His eyes burned. He thought of his late father, a yam farmer from Enugu, who came home with soil on his hands. A man who died believing his son would never bow to anyone. He thought of his mother, who sold oranges by the road so he could go to school. "If they could see me now," Lawrence talked bitterly. "Sitting here, signing away everything." The waitress was Adama. She wasn't supposed to be in that room. But as she came in to collect the empty mugs, she overheard Clement say the company's registration number. The number sounded familiar. She had seen it before, written in her own careful handwriting in a small notebook she kept. A notebook where she wrote down numbers that didn't add up. Adama had been working for Lawrence Global Goods for 5 years. Not as a waitress in the executive suite, but in the accounts department, far below. She was a simple clerk, checking invoices, matching payments. She was good at it. Too good. One day, she noticed a strange pattern. Tiny amounts of money, almost too small to see, were being moved from the main company account to another company with a very similar name. The registration numbers were almost identical, just 1 digit off. She raised the issue with her manager. He told her to forget it. He said it was a simple accounting error, nothing to worry about. A week later, Adama was fired for restructuring. She was told her position was no longer needed. Desperate for work, she took the only job she could find, a waitress for the catering service that served this very building. And now, she was standing here, looking at the same men who had ignored her warnings. Lawrence looked at Adama. Really looked at her. He saw the fire in her eyes. The same fire he once had. What mistake? The head lawyer, Clement, stepped forward, his face red with anger. Sir, this is a distraction. She's a waitress. What could she possibly know? But Adama didn't back down. She pointed a steady finger at a line in the document that listed the company's debts. That company, she said. Her voice clear and strong now. It was set up to drain money from Lawrence Global Goods. Silence fell upon the room like a heavy blanket. The other two lawyers shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Clement's face went pale. He knew she was right. Lawrence's mind raced. For months, he couldn't understand how things had gone so wrong so fast. He trusted his top executives, his legal team. He had trusted Clement. He felt a cold dread wash over him. He had been betrayed. From the inside. Slowly, Lawrence lowered the pen. He looked from Clement's terrified face to Adama's brave one. He saw the truth. Clement, Lawrence said, his voice dangerously quiet. Is this true? Clement started to stutter. It's a misunderstanding. A clerical error, but his eyes darted towards the door. He was trapped. Lawrence stood up, his full height returning, his presence filling the room once more. He was no longer a defeated man. He was the founder of Lawrence Global Goods, a lion who had been woken from his slumber. He looked at Adama. What's your name? Adama, sir. Adama, Lawrence repeated, a slow smile spreading across his face. Adama explained everything. The strange transactions, the similar company name, being fired after she asked questions. She had kept all her notes, all her proof, hoping one day someone would listen. She never imagined it would be Lawrence himself. Lawrence picked up his phone and made a single call. He looked at Clement and the other two lawyers. Their faces were masks of pure terror. You will not be leaving this room, Lawrence said calmly. Their elaborate scheme had been unraveled by a waitress they thought was invisible. They had underestimated the quiet ones, the people they walked past every day without a second glance. Clement and a few senior executives had been siphoning money for years, creating a fake debt to push the company into bankruptcy. They planned to buy its assets for pennies on the dollar once it was all over. But they failed. Thanks to Lawrence not only reversed the bankruptcy, but with the recovered money and renewed purpose, he began to rebuild his empire stronger than before. He called Adama to his office a week later. It was the same grand office she used to clean up after hours. But this time she was not there to serve. A person with your integrity and intelligence does not belong in the shadows. I am creating a new position for you, head of internal auditing. You will report directly to me. Your job will be to ensure that this company never loses its soul again. Adama's eyes filled with tears, but this time they were tears of joy. Her life had been changed forever, not by luck, but by her courage to speak up when it mattered most. The lesson from this story is simple, but powerful. Never underestimate anyone. Value and position are not the same thing. The most important person in the room might not be the one with the loudest voice or the fanciest title. Sometimes, it's the quiet observer, the one who pays attention to the small details. And always have the courage to speak the truth, even when your voice shakes. One voice can change everything. Thank you so much for watching. If this story touched your heart, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who needs to hear it. We'll see you in the next one.